500 megabytes of digital footprints every single day. And to help you imagine how much data it is, let's have the following thought experiment, and we'll see if we have any consultants or material for consultants in the room. Imagine you wanted to back up just 1 day worth of data that an average person used to produce back in 2012. On an A4 or letter-sized paper, single line, double-sided, Times New Roman size 12 with zeros and ones. Just 1 day worth of data. How tall would be a stack of paper that contains just 1 day worth of data produced by humanity back in 2012?
A kilometer.
A kilometer, great guess. More than that. To the sun. Wow. That's it. Well, no one has ever went to the sun in a second. I guess it was the moon from time to time. It's like from the Earth to the sun 4 times over. And it's just 1 day worth of data produced by us back in 2012. And we're quickly ramping up our ability to produce data. Recently, The Economist estimated that in 2025, we will be producing 62 gigabytes of data per person per day. And I'm sure that you guys can come up with many extremely, or examples of extremely useful applications of such data. You can predict the movements of the stock market, data generated by Tesla drivers or Google engineers can help those companies to create autonomous driving cars. Increasingly, data is being recorded and shared in healthcare and is being used to create models that can diagnose disease better or help us to create better medical treatments. But I'm in particular interested in what kind of psychological insights, what can we learn about our psychology based on digital footprints, essentially. And I started with one of the most basic types of digital footprints. I started with Facebook likes. And I'm sure you guys are all familiar with what a Facebook like is this little thumbs up button that you press while looking at your cousin's status update or a picture of their newborn baby, or maybe some political or non-political comments that they made on Facebook. And it turns out that those seemingly innocent types of digital footprints are extremely revealing about our intimate psychological traits. And I've prepared a little video for you that presents results of one of our recent pieces of research.
Now, clicking like on Facebook is something most of us do without thinking.
The University of Cambridge over in London actually did a study
of what people like on Facebook to try to determine facts about them that they wouldn't otherwise know. So they didn't just look at the products, the movies, the bands that people like. They also looked at the status updates that people liked, the photos that people liked, and they were able to draw some really, really interesting conclusions about
all of your likes that you're clicking can tell more about you than you might have realized, from your political values to your religion to your gender to your happiness to your age.
In fact, some parts of your identity can be predicted with 95% accuracy.
Accuracy was lowest, about 60%, when it came to predicting whether a user's parents were still together when they're 21. People whose parents divorced before they were 21 tended to like statements about relationships. Drug users were ID'd with about 65% accuracy, smokers with 73%, and drinkers with 70%. Sexual orientation was also easier to distinguish among men. 8% right there. For women, it was about 75%. Gender, by the way, race, religion, and political views were predicted with high accuracy as well. For instance, white versus black, 95%.
The findings have alarmed privacy campaigners who fear this research could be used to commercially exploit users.
So keep in mind that just because you think you're not revealing a lot of personal details on Facebook, you're still spreading the word to the outside world as well as those online marketers.
Volunteers with few friends liked walking with your friend and randomly pushing them into someone or something. Hey, it's not their fault they don't have friends. Everyone they know keeps getting randomly pushed into traffic. High IQ corresponds to liking Mozart, science, and the Colbert Report.
indicated people who like Harley-Davidson motorbikes are generally of low IQ, we thought we'd better offer a right to reply.
I'd say our average customer is probably more intelligent than most, and we've certainly got a lot of customers who are, well, people from Cambridge University for a start.
A like on Facebook can reveal if you're a gay man. Yeah, especially if what you choose to like is penises. That's my wife walking in. I'm like, oh! It's a joke.
Okay. By the way, don't be an idiot and think that if somebody clicked on Wicked the Musical that they're gay automatically, or they clicked on Harley Davidson and they're stupid automatically. Ironically, make you stupid.
So as you guys can see, those seemingly innocent types of digital footprints, Facebook likes, can be used to reveal a very broad range of intimate psychological, psychodemographic insights, traits. And this is the data that is visible on the surface, your Facebook likes in this case. And what you think you're revealing, like you're revealing that you like the picture of a funny goat, or you like this book that your cousin has read and posted about on Facebook. This is just a tip of an iceberg. And then what can be done is that you can apply machine learning or AI-based algorithms to extract much more information from what's visible on the surface. And let me just give you one example here. This is one day of my life. As you can see, I live very close to the campus, next to Page Mill Road, and then I work at the GSB, lecture somewhere next to the quad, and then I went to Zola, Antonius Nut House, and back home. So this data could be represented as a very simple table, just time stamp plus GPS location. But then when you overlay this data with other pieces of information and apply some algorithms or even simple rules or simple logic, you can extract much more information from this simple data. You know where I live, so you can look up my mortgage data and see how much I owe to the banks, or maybe I paid for my apartment in cash. You know where I work, which means you can estimate my salary. You know what time I'm going to work, what time I'm coming back from work, which is a proxy for conscientiousness, how hard working I am. You can also match those GPS locations of mine with GPS locations of other people. So you would know, for instance, with whom I have hung out at the Nut House, which suddenly allows you to extrapolate from this simple piece of data into a social network data to see, and then when you have my social network data, by comparing, by looking at, let's say, political views, or of people that I've met with at the Nut House, and applying a simple paradigm of homophily, that essentially people tend to hang out with other similar ones, you can now start guessing my political views, religious views, sex orientation, and a very broad number of other variables. So essentially, data as simple as just GPS location history can be used to guess much about me. And how do those predictions model work? I have this short equation here that will go through. But before we jump into it, let me give you one other example. Let's imagine we have an anonymous Facebook user, and the only thing we know about them is that they liked Hello Kitty, the brand. What is the gender of this user? Female. So judgmental. In fact, this Japanese retired gentleman has the largest collection of Hello Kitty toys in the world, but well, he's an outlier. You can see here, 99% of people who like Hello Kitty on Facebook are women. So if you know nothing about the user, just that they like the Hello Kitty brand, you can make a very safe prediction that they are female. Now, work in sales or in the military? Sales, so judgmental and so accurate again, of course. And would they use a PC or an iPhone? Yes, of course, they wouldn't even know what PC stands for in most. So as you guys can see, just based on one single digital footprint, we can extract much information about this anonymous user. And of course, in most cases, digital footprints are not as revealing. So let's say if you liked Forrest Gump, the movie, well, guess what? special. Everyone likes Forrest Gump. But if you look a bit closer, look what happens. Still, you see that 45% of Facebook users are men, but 53% of people who like Forrest Gump, the movie, are men, which essentially means that men are overrepresented among Forrest Gump fans. Which essentially means that if it's revealed to you that this anonymous user liked Forrest Gump, there's some information, there's some signal in this digital footprint. And now what algorithms can do much better than humans can is to look at tens, hundreds, or thousands, or millions of digital footprints, where each of those footprints contains a lot of noise, but a little tiny bit of information, and then aggregate this information to arrive at the very accurate predictions. And now, when we talk about accuracy of predictions, I used to in the past start with telling people how accurately you can predict gender, age of our subjects using digital footprints, to which people would respond quite reasonably, hey, it's not impressive at all. You know, I can recognize someone's age and gender just, you know, from a fraction of a second of just taking a look at their picture. And this is true. Essentially, those traits are so easily discernible, both from personal interactions, from the tone of voice, from what people are talking about, but also from their Facebook likes. It's just not that impressive. So I decided to start with more complicated traits, such as psychological traits, personality, for example. Personality is something that we all have, and we measure personality a lot. You measure personality, let's say, in the context of career counseling, when you want to take a young person who has not been trained yet in anything, but you want to predict what kind of training would be most productive, efficient, what career would make them happiest, and personality assessment is very useful to make such judgments. We actually judge other people's personality even in short interactions with them, and it turns out that like-based personality predictions are also pretty accurate. What you can see here on the vertical axis is a number of Facebook likes that you reveal to the prediction algorithm, and on the y-axis you have the accuracy or the correlation with questionnaire scores. In this case, but you can measure accuracy in other ways, like predicting real-life outcomes and so on. And I assume we have no psychometricians in the room, because psychometricians would give me a little applause, a little wow here. This is really accurate. And to show you how accurate it is, let's compare the prediction accuracy of like-based models with the prediction accuracy of other well-established personality measurement tools. You guys. As I said before, when you interact with others, you can judge their personality, and we're pretty good at it. So now the question is, how many likes do you have to reveal to an algorithm for it to be as accurate at predicting your personality traits as your work colleague? How many likes do we reveal to an algorithm for an algorithm to be as accurate as your work colleague when judging your personality? 3. Your work colleagues don't know you that well. It turns out that for most of us, it's 10. Now, friends and family members, it's around 100, 150. And now the most accurate of human judges, our spouses, can be outperformed by algorithms when we reveal around 240 likes of funny goats and books and whatever else you guys like on Facebook. Now, this should be really upsetting to all of us that have partners, because, well, partners are supposed to know us very well, and they do know us much better than friends, cohabitants, colleagues, and so on. And yet, 250 random little tiny pieces of information from your Facebook profile enable a simple mathematical equation, in this case a linear regression model, to predict whether you like poetry, or whether you come to meetings on time, or whether you like hanging out with friends in the restaurants, with higher accuracy than the person that should know you the most. And of course, it's not just Facebook likes. Facebook likes, in fact, are one of the lamest types of digital footprints, because they happen in public, so people know that are being observed. Your credit card records, web browsing data, GPS logs, language from your emails, tweets, status updates. All of those digital footprints are much more revealing about your intimate traits, including personality, than Facebook likes. And it's not just happening in our labs, it's not Cambridge Analytica. IBM Watson has been offering the technology that Cambridge Analytica apparently devised for the first time for about 10 years now. And by the way, Cambridge Analytica's technology has been patented by Facebook back in 2012. And Facebook is now surprised, how is it possible that people are doing this? But it turns out there are other types of digital footprints. Faces, human faces that can be used to achieve the same goal, to judge our intimate psychological traits. And when I say that, people usually react like, hey, how is it possible? How can you possibly claim that you can take a human face and now make any statements about their intimate psychodemographic traits? It's absolutely impossible. Well, apart from the fact that we are doing it all the time. Like we are judging other people's gender automatically and immediately when we see them. We are judging their emotions and intimate psychological states. And yet no one has any trouble judging this man's emotion here, even when they try to hide their emotions. Genetic profile. By making statements that parents are similar to children, or siblings or twins are similar to each other, what you're essentially saying is that you can judge their genetic similarity based on their faces. You can diagnose genetic disorders even if you're not trained based on people's faces, developmental disorders, and political views. Which of those guys voted for Trump? We don't know for sure, but we can make quite an accurate judgment here. There are some other psychological traits where humans are not that good at predicting them from people's faces. Example, personality. So you have two facial images of two famous female psychologists, Sandrine here on your right and Sandra here on your left. Which of those psychologists is the more extroverted one? Who thinks that Sandrine is more extroverted? Hands up. Who thinks that Sandra is more extroverted here on the left? Okay, we have 50-50 roughly in terms of votes, and this is very close to laboratory experiments. People in the lab can accurately distinguish, figure out which one is extroverted, which one is introverted, with about 54% accuracy, which is, and for some traits, not at all. Now, this can mean two things. It can mean that essentially there's just no information about extroversion in your face. Or maybe extroversion is as clearly displayed on your face as gender is, but the human brain just did not evolve a capability to either perceive or interpret this relevant information. And it seems it's the latter. What I've done here, I put overlaid on top of each other 10 images of introverted women and 10 images of extroverted women. No one in the room would have trouble identifying which one is an extroverted group. Which one is the extroverted group? Great. Smiling, makeup, dyed hair, much better hairdo as well. You can see on the introverted side, you can see outline of glasses. When you look at the pictures taken in the lab in a controlled environment, when the position of the head is fixed, you would see differences in the jaw outline, in the shape of the eyebrows, shape of the nose, and so on, suggesting also hormonal, prenatal or postnatal hormonal differences between introverts and extroverts. Now, perhaps most interestingly, for the introverts, you can also see the nostrils, and you can't really see the nostrils for the extroverts. Can anyone guess why extroverts have no nostrils? Any extroverts in the room having trouble breathing? No? Well, if you were to, please?
Your hand there is room forward.
Great! Extroverts know, they socialize a lot. They know how to take great pictures because being in a social environment is really important for them. And if you are to remember just one thing from this talk, if you want to take a good selfie, you need to take it like this, from above. And then your nostrils won't be visible, but also your face would look a bit better. And it turns out, essentially, look, so the shape of your jaw, or the fact that you had makeup, it's not like Hello Kitty. It's more like Forrest Gump. Having glasses doesn't make you automatically introverted, but there's a small statistical difference in the likelihood of wearing glasses between introverts and extroverts. Extroverts essentially put the contact lenses in, they will suffer for popularity among their peers, and the computer can spot the difference. And when you add up information from hundreds of little tiny pieces of signal in your face, you can see a very simple computer vision algorithm can distinguish between introverts and extroverts with much higher accuracy than humans, and this applies to all the other traits as well. And again, this is just not just happening in the lab. Microsoft Cognitive Services for quite some time they have been offering predictions, psychological predictions based on people's faces. Which leads me to the title of this talk. This was just all the introduction. Now the main part happens. The end of privacy. The algorithms are getting better at predicting our intimate traits from our digital footprints, and we are leaving an increasing amount of digital footprints behind while using products and services, which essentially means that going forward, we're going to have just less privacy than we have now. To which people usually respond, but what about our great governments protecting our privacy and giving us control of our data? Well, even the governments cannot control the data, and by the way, sometimes for luckily. And not to mention that even if you somehow magically got control of your data, this would mean that many of the amazing, life-changing, economy-changing technologies would have to be switched off. Like Google Maps. If you manage to use Google Maps without sharing your own geographical location, you would be literally free riding on the backs of all of those other suckers that didn't set their privacy settings right. And guess what? They all would wake up soon enough, switch off their sharing of the geographical location, and Google Maps will be gone. Which you may say, well, maybe that's a good trade-off for maintaining our privacy, which sounds great, but then you have to realize how much fuel we are saving thanks to Google Maps, how much time we are saving thanks to Google Maps, how many lives we are saving thanks to Google Lives. Emergency services are also using Google Maps to reach people who suffered a stroke or had an accident in the shortest time possible. So we are definitely going to pay the price if Google Maps disappears. Not to mention that even if we disappear Google Maps, there will still be people who would love to share some data about themselves. Like, we like to tweet and blog and walk the streets without covering our faces. And this is already enough data for even a mediocre algorithm to reveal a broad range of intimate traits about us. To which usually at this stage, most of the people, at least this was my goal, to convince you that the privacy is gone. To which most of you started rationalizing and saying, well, okay, we'll just have to put up with some Cambridge Analyticas in the future. But it's not that simple. And I have those two composite images, each one composed of 100 male faces. Those males differ on an important psychodemographic trait. What trait is it? Even humans can actually tell a difference here most of the time. Race. It's not race, we controlled for race.
Openness.
Oh, that's not openness?
Trust.
Not trust, this is sexual orientation. You have 100 gay men and 100 straight men, and straight men are here with a shade of a beard. Again, wearing a beard doesn't make you straight. It's a Forrest Gump of digital footprints, right? It's just statistically linked. And it turns out that if you show a computer 5 faces of a gay man and 5 faces of a straight man, computer accuracy of distinguishing between them would be over 90%. And then if you match it with this map, which shows you where the society will kill you for being gay, nails down the point that losing our privacy is not just some creepy online marketing. It's literally a matter of life and death for many people around the world. And it's not just sexual orientation that can be predicted, and not just from faces. It can be also much more easily predicted from Facebook likes, or the book you've read, or the songs you listen to. The same about political views, religious views. Saudi Arabia will kill you if you're an atheist, and so on. Which brings me to my absolutely last slide, which is the picture. This is a tornado, right? As you can see, I don't experience too many tornadoes. My point here is that we probably could all agree that we should delegalize tornadoes today, make them illegal to come. Yet, we also all realize that this will not stop them from coming. It's the same with privacy. I'm not in opposition to privacy regulation. I'm not in opposition to giving us more control of our data. But the bottom line is that however much control over your data you have, Russian government or American government or Facebook or Google will still be able to invade your privacy, and you are not going to have control over it. And if you live with the feeling that you may in the future, it's just an illusion. And the sooner you treat yourself out of this illusion, and you realize that whatever you do, we're going to lose our privacy, the sooner we can sit down and start a mature conversation about what to do to make sure that our post-privacy world is still a habitable and safe place to live. And I should stop here. Thank you guys.